A very good evening and thank you for joining GBS News at 9. My name is Stephen George and our sign language interpreter tonight is Paul Madenge. And now, President William Ruto for the fourth day continued to traverse the mountainous Mrima region with a basket full of development goodies for the locals. Unlike yesterday when some local leaders were heckled in the presence of the president, today no such incident was witnessed in Tharaka Nithi, Embu and Murang'a counties.
Early today, President William Ruto's entourage stops at Tharaka Nithi University in Tharaka Nithi County. Here, the president officially opens a students' hostel before proceeding to address the locals.
Kwa hivyo ndugu zangu watu wa Makuyu, mimi nawapenda sana, mimi nimefurahi kufika hapa na mimi nataka niwahakikishie ya kwamba ile kazi mlitupatia tutafanya na bidii na tutabadilisha Makuyu na tutabadilisha Maragwa, tutabadilisha hii Murang'a yenu na tutabadilisha taifa letu la Kenya.
President then toured Embu County. Today's president tour of the Mrima was wrapped up in Murang'a County.
Kuja hapa kufanya mtihani. Yule alipatiwa kujenga barabara si atakuja kusema. Yule wa kujenga nyumba si atakuja kusema. Si ile mnampatia mimi nitakuja kusema. Kwani mnafikiri nitakaa hivi ati ningedhie niangushe mtihani? Siwezi kuanguka mtihani.
The president will end his mountain climb tomorrow.
Wadosi wako na wadosi wangu wamesema tufanye kazi ya wananchi. Mnasema tushirikiane na Wamaua. Tutembee pamoja. Tuache mambo ya siasa ya ugomvi na chuki na mambo ya ukabila. Tuungane pamoja. Wapi haya sasa tufanye namna hiyo? Asante sana. Kwa hivyo ndugu zangu watu wa Makuyu, mimi nawapenda sana, mimi nimefurahi kufika hapa na mimi nataka niwahakikishie ya kwamba ile kazi mlitupatia tutafanya na bidii na tutabadilisha Makuyu na tutabadilisha Maragwa, tutabadilisha hii Murang'a yenu na tutabadilisha taifa letu la Kenya.
Victor Udun, GBS News at 9.
Moving swiftly, President William Ruto has issued a strong call for collaboration between the Ministry of Education and all 47 county government to develop a unified framework for bursaries to ensure every needy student receives vital financial support. The president made these remarks during his development tour of Murang'a and Nyandarua counties, emphasizing the urgency to address concerns raised by the Office of the Controller Budget. The Controller's Office has raised questions regarding the disbursement of bursaries by counties, specifically relating to funding institutions outside their jurisdiction. This call comes in the wake of a High Court ruling in January 2025, which suspended an agreement between the Controller of Budget and the Council of Governors. Now, the ruling challenged the county's ability to provide bursaries to institutions beyond their geographical boundaries.
Tumekubaliana na jana nimesema ya kwamba wale watu wa Controller of Budget wameambia counties ati wasitoe bursary kwa watoto wetu wanaosoma, lakini nimewaeleza mambo ya masomo ni kazi ya national government, lakini national government haiwezi kufanya kazi hiyo peke yake. Tunataka tuunganishe national government na county government katika mambo yetu ya elimu. Na ndio mimi nimesema waziri wa elimu na Council of Governors waketi chini wiki ijayo wakubaliane tutengeneze ile concurrency inahitajika, ndio watoto wa Kenya wanaolipiwa na counties bursary waendelee kulipiwa, kwa sababu hakuna watoto wa Kenya wa national na hakuna wa county. Watoto wa Kenya ni watoto wa Kenya wote. Tumekubaliana jameni? Si tunataka watoto wetu wasome na tunataka wapatiwe bursary. Hasa wale wenye jamii chini kidogo, tusaidie kila mtu, ndio kila mtoto apate nafasi ya kusoma. Sasa wewe ses na wenzako magavana mketi chini next week, tukubaliane ndio muendelee kupatiana bursary, watoto wetu wa Kenya wasome.
Now, in our GBS Weekly Boomerang edition, Victor Odun, the boomerang captain and pilot, is bringing to us all the satirical, metaphorical, as well as political rhetorics from the Sagana State Lodge President's press conference to the Moamunyoro's reaction to him before he visited the mountain this week. In a witty manner, Odun wraps up the Boomerang Weekly edition by inviting Kotu Secretary General Francis Atuoli intervention prayers for the country. You don't have to miss this in an effort to perhaps bring Tharaka Nithi to his side. President William Ruto took on an angle and heaped
Itumbi amesema sijui ameandika nini. Sasa tukafanya kesi laita Itumbi. Deputy President ameketi hapo, mimi hapa. Wewe Deputy President anasema umefanya. Haya, tunamaliza kesi.
Sababu kila siku ni kudanganya watu.
Next baada ya wiki moja, Faruk PA mtu mdogo amesema amefanya. Haya, naita Faruk, nafanya kesi. Tukamaliza hiyo. Kidogo Ndindi Nyoro amefanya ameitisha mkutano sijui Kiharu, amepanga wabunge wengi. Mbona amepanga wabunge? Mbona naita Ndindi Nyoro. Tumeketi chini. Kesi. Haya, kuisha hiyo.
Now he's the president. He's still giving us stories.
Kimani Shungwa sijui amesema. Sasa mpaka nikamuuliza, ndugu yangu, wewe ni naibu wa rais wa Kenya. Bloga huyu Dennis Itumbi bloga unasumbuana na yeye nini? PA ya ofisi mtu kidogo. Hawa vijana, sijui Ndindi Nyoro, sijui Kimani Shungwa, sijui nani, sijui mama mwingine, sijui anaitwa wa kutoka hapa ati alikuja, sijui anamwambia wewe unazungusha marinda, sijui. Sasa nikamwambia, hivi tena kidogo ni nini? Just wait. Wa mlima wenyewe watajitokeza, watasema yale wanafikiria, na mimi pia niko na majibu ya vile mambo itakavyoendelea, kwa sababu mimi nimekuwa nikitembea mlima Kenya nafikiri sasa miaka 20. Hii urafiki nimetengeneza na watu wa hapa mlimani, sio urafiki ya miezi, sio ya masiku.
Hata saa hii anajiandaa kutembea huko, anakuja kusema ukweli ama uongo? Si mnajua? Anakuja kusema ukweli ama uongo? Si mnajua?
Na Rumoro tumekubaliana. Jambo la ine, mimi nimekuja hapa leo Nyeri, ni maneno yenu ya barabara. Muliniambia ya kwamba barabara za Maumau zijengwe. Ni kweli ama si kweli?
Sasa watu wanapewa pesa kuja kusikiza uongo. Na tumesema basi kama ni kusikiza uongo ulipishe bei kali. Kwa sababu uongo ni kitu baya. Sasa usipewe 200 kusikiza uongo, utakuwa ni mjinga. Pesa imepangwa na magunia. Mujitayarishe. Mkule. Lakini msipeleke hiyo nyumbani, pesa nyumbani imelaaniwa.
Now he's the president. He's still giving us stories.
Mkule pale kwa market peke yake, si ndio? Sasa watu wanapewa pesa kuja kusikiza uongo. Na tumesema basi kama ni kusikiza uongo ulipishe bei kali. Kwa sababu uongo ni kitu baya. Sasa usipewe 200 kusikiza uongo, utakuwa ni mjinga.
Akitaka tukuja mkutano yake 2000. Akitaka tupiga makofi 2000. Akitaka ngemi 3000. Akitaka tucheke 3000. Lakini haujatuambia ni kwa muda gani. Mtu hawezi kudanganya hawa ni dakika 20 amalize na aende.
Kwa hapa mlimani wiki moja mimi niko area hii kupanga mambo yenu yote ya maendeleo
na kuahidi
mwadhani ya muradhi.
Hizo ndizo naita stories za jaba.
Kukiwa kuna mwizi ndani yetu, Mungu siona aibu kutuondolea. Sisi hatuna nguvu baba. Inji hii ni yako. Ulituleta hapa ukatuangusha kwenye mbwa zenye meno kubwa, fisi. Ewe tutoe katika haya meno Mungu. Mungu, hatuna nguvu, yote tunawacha kwako, tukiamini vile ulivyomtuma Yesu Kristo anayeketi katika mkono wako wa kiume sasa aje afe kwa dhambi zetu. Mungu, mtume tena pole pole, asaidiane na malaika Gabriel, atutolee hao wazi. Amin.
Now, focusing to something else, in an effort to perhaps bring Tharaka Nithi to his side, President William Ruto took on an angle and heaped praise on his deputy, Kithure Kindiki, for being hardworking and steadfast in pursuit of national development and unity of the nation. According to the president, Kindiki is a focused, respectful and development-minded leader who has played a great role in faster realization of the government's agenda. On his part, Kindiki said he is honored by the president's decision to pick him as his deputy president and promising to work in tandem with him to ensure government's agenda is hastily implemented. He reiterated that his role is assisting the president in ensuring all projects and programs targeting improving the lives of Kenyans.
Mumenipatia huyu mungwana. Anaitwa Profesa Kithure Kindiki. Ndio. Si mimi nilikuja hapa kwenu wakati wa uchaguzi. Si mulikuwa mnataka kuchagua huyu ati gavana. Si nikawaambia ngojeni, wacheni na mambo ya gavana. Si niliwaambia munipatie huyu jamaa nitembee na yeye. Nilikuwa ninajua maneno ama sikujua maneno. Sasa huyu mungwana wenu, si juzi alikuwa waziri wa mambo ya usalama. Si alifanya kazi mzuri pale? Na leo si huyu sasa ni deputy president wa Kenya? Watu wa Tharaka Nithi, wapi makofi ya deputy president wa Republic of Kenya? Mimi nauliza nyinyi, huyu profesa anatosha ama atoshi? Huyu Kindiki anatosha ama atoshi? Lakini sasa sikizeni, huyu Profesa Kindiki sio naibu wa rais wa Tharaka Nithi, sio naibu wa rais wa Chuka hapa, sio naibu wa rais wa kule Tharaka, sio naibu wa rais wa hapa Mulima. Huyu ni naibu wa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Now, the government has started talks on the sessional paper number 1 of 2025 with the lays out of country's foreign policy plans. Key government officials, including Prime CS and CS for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, are working together to review and improve the proposals. The goal is to create a foreign policy that involves the public more and strengthen Kenya's role in the world, while also supporting Kenyans living abroad.
The government is currently deliberating on the sessional paper number 1 of 2025, which outlines the country's foreign policy strategy. Developed after the launch of Kenya Foreign Policy 2024, this document is undergoing parliamentary scrutiny and public consultation to ensure that the public reflects national interest.
I am delighted to see you all today as we begin our deliberations on the sessional paper number 1 of 2025 on the foreign policy of the Republic of Kenya. The sessional paper, which was developed after the launch of the Kenya Foreign Policy 2024 in December last year, is a strategy document presented for parliamentary scrutiny and debate to allow for refinement of the policies it proposes before they are implemented.
The key focus is the concept of foreign and diaspora policy mashinani, which aims to involve citizens from the grassroots level in shaping Kenya's foreign relations. The sessional paper proposes a holistic approach to financing Kenya's foreign policy, implementing and maximizing its asset on the international stage, also emphasizing the protection of Kenyans living in the diaspora.
The objective is to emphasize the new foreign policy approach that aims to involve our citizens right from the grassroots to the international sphere. This is the essence of our new policy direction, embodied in the expression foreign and diaspora policy mashinani, that solidifies the national ownership of our foreign policy even as we position Kenya internationally.
The government is seeking parliamentary approval for the recommendations to position Kenya more strategically in global affairs while safeguarding the welfare of its citizens abroad.
We definitely look forward to the robust debate in Parliament and the endorsement of this sessional paper so that we can now move forward with more clarity and avoid guesswork on critical matters of our foreign policy. So I'm really appealing to you to help us drive this.
Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
Well, it is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming into our social media platform. At GBS TV Africa, the SMS line is 21144. We'll be right back.
We are going to be talking about goal setting itself and building resilience. Goal setting and building resilience.
So hawezi sema nita set goal then someone else akuja kuwork on the goal. Hawezi sema uta set goal yenyewe mwenyewe huwezi reach. Hawezi sema uta set goal na mali una stand like huwezi reach ile goal umeset.
Just imagine I've promised someone that I will do something to them by the end of this year, and then surely I fail. What will happen? You know, they will say Steve has broken my heart.
Set hata many goals, but ni realistic goals.
Unajua aje ni realistic?
Because najua I'm capable of, like, they're realistic. They're making sense. Sijasema nanunua V8 by the end of the year. But because I know inaweza kuwa impossible because mtu anaangalianga. Siku make tu. Unajua utaandika. By December 31st nataka kuwa na iPhone 16 Pro.
It is insane to do the same thing and expect different results. Yeah, so definitely we need to see, like, if it is not working, what is in this system that is making this thing fail, and I'm expecting these results. How can I improve this project?
The goals that you set, maybe ukiona like maybe that can be affected by kitu huwezi avoid.
About self-competition. I'm only in competition with the person I see in the mirror, and that is me. So it is about my personal development.
So just a matter of writing and putting and now waiting, you know.
Remove my skin and I won't cry. But you might. What am I? Are you still practicing art ukifanya your engineering? Umezimix ama umeenda tu fully on art? Sasa najua hebu kwanza tutajia because najua huwezi taja wote. Just some of the people wenye some of the celebs wenye umeweza ku reveal your art to them.
Kroba bibi yake. Hiyo siku walifurahia mbaya. Mimi nilikuwa emotional mbaya sana.
Lilia.
Don't check that video guys. Nililia mbaya.
I was seeing kuna place ulikuwa unasema like Biendo alikusaidia sana in building your career. Unaweza tuambie hiyo moment when ilikuanga?
We
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back to more action. Democratic Action Party, led by Eugene Wamalwa today, has issued an ultimatum warning to ODM party to detach from the opposition and join government instead of standing in between. They have also reassured their former coalition mates on taking over the Western region, which ODM has always been a dominant party. Davis Karani reports.
Ukisikia wana ODM vile wanaongea siku hizi, the way they walk na Ruto, they walk like Ruto, they quack like Ruto. They are Ruto allies.
It is a new declaration by the Democratic Action Party led by Eugene Wamalwa against the Orange Democratic Movement Party led by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga after Odinga signed a pact with UDA, which Eugene stated that it sealed the deal for the ODM's commitment to work with the government.
Wale tumekataa kupanda mti tukule chapati na Zakayo. Wale tumesema tutasimama na wananchi na tutasimama na Gen Z. We must be consulted. That principle involves the opposition, not just the government or government within government.
It is in this press conference that the lawmaker from Mumias East, Honorable Peter Salasia, promised to fight ODM out of Western region due to its habit of betrayal.
Lakini mambo ya kisiasa atunafuata ati Raila ati yeye tunamwambia hakuna na mambo ya ODM hakuna. Sasa tumesema there shall be no escape route in entire Western and watu wa Busia. Nataka niwaulize anyone, and I know their game, and I want to tell our people what these people they normally do. They go for the potential candidates. We want to tell our people from Western Kenya, if there is anyone who's going to come in the name of ODM, whether he's a good politician, he's a good dancer, we will have to punish that person just because he's in ODM.
Will DAP Kenya manage to dilute ODM in the Western region? Davis Karani, GBS News.
Now, moving swiftly, Speaker Moses Wetangula at the National Assembly have asked the High Court to strike out a contempt of court application filed against him. The petitioners are challenging Wetangula's recent ruling, which declared Kenya Kwanza as the majority party and Azimio la Umoja as the minority party in the House. The Speaker argues that the application is flawed and does not warrant contempt proceedings.
Speaker Moses Wetangula and the National Assembly have urged the High Court to dismiss a contempt of court application filed against them.
The third and fourth respondents filed their notice of preliminary objection dated 3rd April 2025, raising a point of preliminary objection. The application by Kiben and Guy for the petitioners. Basically, my lords, it was challenging the application for contempt, my lords.
The application, brought by 12 petitioners, challenges Wetangula's February 12, 2025 ruling that declared Kenya Kwanza coalition as the majority party and the Azimio la Umoja One coalition as the minority party. The Speaker and the Assembly argue that the application is defective and infringes on their right to a fair hearing, claiming there were no court order violated to warrant contempt proceedings.
What we are seeking from you this morning in terms of the elections is that the PO that has been raised and the PO by the third and fourth respondents be heard and determined first before the hearing of the motion.
The nurses at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital have officially called off their 3-week strike after reaching an agreement with the hospital administration. The strike, which had disrupted services at the facility, was resolved through the signing of return to work formula. Key issues addressed in the agreement included promotions, harmonization of insurance cover, remittance of third-party deductions, and transitioning employment terms from contract to permanent and pensionable status. The hospital management committed to resolve salary arrears, which were reported to be close to 1 billion shillings. Following the agreement, affected nurses are expected to resume their duties within 24 hours.
Following the many discussions that we've had with them and the negotiations, today we've actually reached an agreement for them to resume duties immediately, and we are here to welcome you to signing of our return to work formula. The issues that had been raised, about 7 of them we've gone through and discussed and agreed. Many of them have been resolved.
Okay, the main issue was about the medical cover, which our members felt that it was inadequate, but we've discussed with the management and we've resolved it, and there is a way that is going to be handled in future. Number two, there was the issue of delayed deductions, remittance of delayed deductions, which has taken a while now, but we appreciate management, like for the loans and SACCOs, it has done up to December. There is an issue of pension that still has arrears, but the management has given us a remedial plan on how it is going to be done, and we appreciate and we believe the same is going to be done.
Well, it is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming into a social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 2.144. We'll be right back.
How to avoid food poisoning. Tips to prevent foodborne illness. You'll need sealable containers, a cutting board, antibacterial soap, lemon juice or vinegar. Step 1. Check the dates of the food products before buying and before cooking. Step 2. Store food in the recommended temperatures to keep them fresh. Step 3. Discard any food that smells or looks questionable. Step 4. Separate meat and vegetables at storage. Step 5. Use plastic chopping boards and not wooden ones. Bacteria can get trapped in wooden boards. Step 6. Wash your hands thoroughly with antibacterial soap before handling food or after handling meat. Step 7. Refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours of cooking.
A student can transition from other curriculums, such as the Kenyan CBC curriculum, the Pearson EdXL curriculum, and the IB curriculum, to the Cambridge curriculum.
Today we're going to make, ta-da! A boba tea letter set. We're going to make the letter set. It looks really cute, right? Now we are finished to make.
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back now to international news. Tensions are escalating in South Sudan as President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda meets with his counterpart, President Salva Kiir, in Juba with fears of an impending civil war. The leaders discussed the country's security situation and the ongoing peace agreement. This comes after a series of developments, including the arrest of Vice President Riek Machar and heavy clashes between government forces and rebel militias. Uganda has deployed forces to support Kiir's government as the region faces increasing instability.
Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni visited Juba to meet with South Sudan's President Salva Kiir amid rising tensions and warnings of a looming civil war. South Sudan's Foreign Minister Ramadan Mohamed Abdallah briefed Museveni on the security situation and the peace agreement, assuring continued commitment to its implementation despite ongoing violence.
We briefed the President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda and the accompanying delegation about the security situation in South Sudan and the status of implementation of peace agreement, and we assure them that South Sudan government, we are very committed for the implementation of the security arrangement.
The visit follows the recent arrest of Vice President Riek Machar, escalating conflict between government forces and rebel militias. Uganda's Foreign Affairs Minister John Mulimba confirmed the deployment of Uganda's forces to protect President Kiir's government.
We have had a cordial meeting
touching on issues between our two governments, which are mutual benefit between the two governments. We've touched on the topic of peace and security between our two states, but also in the region.
Fighting in northern Sudan, particularly with the White Army militia linked to Machar, continues to fuel instability, making peace efforts critical to prevent further escalation. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
Now, South Africa has expressed concern over the U.S. President Donald Trump's 30% tariff hike, warning that it poses a significant barrier to trade and shared prosperity. The move threatened key exports including steel, agricultural products and vehicles, and has contributed to a weakening of the South African rand.
South Africa's presidency has raised concern over the impact of the U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff hikes, which it views as a barrier to trade and shared prosperity. While expressing a commitment to maintaining a mutually beneficial trade relationship with the United States, South Africa emphasized the urgent need for a new trade agreement to ensure long-term trade certainty. Trump's 30% tariff on South Africa export, which include key products like steel, agricultural goods and vehicles, has put significant strain on the country's trade relations with its second largest export partner. Economist Hanti Pei highlighted that while South Africa has a diversified export portfolio, including over $2 billion in vehicle and parts exports, smaller nations with less diversified economies may be more severely impacted by the tariffs.
South Africa has quite an expansive trade relationship with the U.S. It's been there for quite a long time. It is on what we call hard commodities, or that would include things like steel. Then soft commodities, that would be, as you say, agricultural products, that would include citrus, grapes, and all of that. But also export many other products. We know we export to the U.S. cars, for example. So that sector. So all of these sectors are sectors that are quite key to South Africa, that are quite important, and that will be affected.
The country's currency, the rand, fell to a 3-month low as concern about the tariff hike compounded with domestic political tensions, particularly regarding the Democratic Alliance's potential exit from the coalition government over disagreements about the 2025 budget.
Sure. I mean, smaller countries are probably the most hit because part of their issue is also the way that they're very concentrated industries. So they're not very well diversified economies. So smaller countries will have, for example, kind of like this, a particular manufacturing sector that may be very focused, say, to textiles, and then you don't see a lot of anything else, as opposed to South Africa that is quite a diversified group of exports, and those are diversified into different kinds of countries.
This development signals a challenging period for South Africa's economy amid global trade uncertainties. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
The United Nations has sounded the alarm over the devastating impact of last week's earthquake in Myanmar, which has claimed thousands of lives and worsened an already severe humanitarian crisis. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for an urgent international action, warning that the disaster has exposed deeper vulnerabilities in the country where millions were already in need of assistance due to ongoing conflict and violence.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has raised alarms over the escalating crisis in Myanmar, where a devastating earthquake last week has compounded an already dire situation. The quake, which has claimed at least 3,000 lives and left thousands injured, has exposed deeper vulnerabilities in a country already struggling with political, humanitarian and human rights issues.
Death toll is now 3,000 and climbing, with thousands injured and many trapped under the rubble. This disaster has laid bare the deeper vulnerabilities facing people throughout the country. Even before the earthquake, Myanmar was beset by political, human rights and humanitarian crises, hurting people, spilling over to neighboring countries and the wider region, and opening the door to transnational crime.
Before the disaster, nearly 1/3 of the population needed urgent humanitarian assistance due to the ongoing conflicts and violence. With monsoon season approaching, Guterres emphasized the need for swift, coordinated international action to provide critical aid and ensure that humanitarian access remains unhindered.
Nearly 20 million people, or 1 in every 3 in Myanmar, required already humanitarian aid. And millions had fled their homes from conflict and violence. The earthquake has supercharged the suffering, with the monsoon season just around the corner. We need rapid action on several fronts. I appeal for rapid, safe, sustained, and unimpeded humanitarian access to reach those most in need across the country.
In response to the crisis, the United Nations is deploying top officials to Myanmar to strengthen efforts for peace and dialogue. Guterres has called on the international community to increase funding to meet the scale of the crisis and to prioritize political solutions. He welcomed temporary ceasefire but stressed the urgency of transitioning to a broader political dialogue that includes the release of political prisoners and the restoration of democracy. The UN chief reaffirmed the United Nations' commitment to standing in solidarity with the people of Myanmar and providing ongoing support in their time of need.
Now is the time to stand in solidarity with the long-suffering people of Myanmar. And the United Nations will keep pushing for peace and life-saving support for the people of Myanmar in their hour of need.
Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
Russia has committed to provide substantial military support to the Alliance of Sahel states. This alliance, comprised of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger nations currently under military rule, is seeking to bolster its security forces in the face of persistent and devastating insurgency. The foreign ministers from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger concluded their meetings in Moscow, securing a commitment from Russia to equip and train a planned 5,000-strong joint force. This move comes after the Sahel nations expelled French and other Western nations, turning instead to Russia. Notably, the Wana Group for military assistance, they have also withdrawn from the economic community of the West African states, ECOWAS, signaling a significant realignment of their foreign policy. The region has been grappling with the brutal jihadist insurgency since 2012, originating in Mali and spreading across the vast, largely rural areas south of Sahara. The conflict has resulted in the deaths of thousands of civilians and the displacement of millions, creating a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. Still on international news, hundreds of thousands of Gazans are fleeing their homes as Israeli forces ramp up their assault in southern Gaza, advancing into the city of Rafah and deepening the humanitarian crisis. With airstrikes hitting civilians and vital infrastructure, residents fear the permanent loss of their homes and livelihoods as widespread destruction and displacement continue to engulf the region.
Hundreds of thousands of Gazans were forced to flee their homes as Israeli forces advance into the southern city of Rafah, part of a newly declared security zone in Gaza.
What they are doing to us is unjust. It's a shame. This is not life. Every day we are moving from one place to another.
The city, which had served as a last refuge for many displaced civilians, is now facing intense attack and destruction. Israeli airstrikes killed at least 97 people in the past 24 hours, including 20 in the northern Shijai neighborhood and 27 in a school sheltering displaced families in Gaza City. As Israeli forces continue their military escalation, residents fear that the move could lead to the permanent depopulation of large parts of Gaza, with Israel potentially seizing crucial agricultural land and water resources. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is deepening, with civilians caught between airstrikes and the ongoing blockade that has left the 2.3 million residents without essential supplies. Local health authorities report over 50,000 deaths in Gaza, while thousands more have been displaced with nowhere to seek refuge. Despite Israel's staged goal of dismantling Hamas, which still controls Gaza, the situation remains unresolved, and the civilian population continues to bear the brunt of the violence. Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán on Thursday announced the country's decision to withdraw from the International Criminal Court. The move comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visits Budapest despite facing an arrest warrant from the ICC. During a joint press conference, Netanyahu thanked Orbán for what he called a bold and principled decision, criticizing the ICC as politically biased.
Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán announced that the country will withdraw from the International Criminal Court (ICC), coinciding with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to Budapest.
I was the Prime Minister who signed the document to join the ICC in 2000. And I was the one who signed the document to leave it in the past few days. It is our conviction that in recent years it has become not a neutral legal court, but a political court.
During a joint news conference, Netanyahu praised Orbán's decision, calling it a bold and principled move, and criticized the ICC as a politically biased institution.
And you've just taken a bold and principled position on the ICC, and I thank you, Victor. This is not only important for us, it's important for all democracies. It's important to stand up to this corrupt organization.
Hungary is the first European country to welcome Netanyahu since the beginning of the war in Gaza, and is set to become the first European country to exit the ICC. As Hungary pulls away from the ICC, it highlights a shift in its foreign policy, strengthening ties with Israel, while distancing itself from the European Union consensus. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
Still in Asia, South Korea's constitutional court ousted President Yoon Suk Yeol on Friday after upholding his impeachment over controversial martial law. Now, the ruling triggers an election within 60 days, with Prime Minister Ha Dang-soo serving as acting president amid political and economic uncertainties.
Africa's presidency has raised concern over the impact of the U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff hikes, which it views as a barrier to trade and shared prosperity. While expressing a commitment to maintaining a mutually beneficial trade relationship with the United States, South Africa emphasized.
Well, we have come to the end of the news bulletin. It is always a pleasure having you on board. Let's do this again, same time, same channel. We make your news our business. My name is Stephen George, and our sign language interpreter tonight has been Paul Madenge. Good night.
Everywhere.